Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Create Miracles on Demand Through Radical Energy Healing. Discover how working with the divine pathway can reconnect you to the transformative power of your soul. My name is Cyndi Dale. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network, and I am thrilled and blessed to be with you here, getting to learn from one of the preeminent energy healers on the planet, who's also just happens to be a very cool individual from my home state of Minnesota. So we are going to be on an adventure here today, looking at some more advanced concepts and practices that we can apply to our lives in terms of activating higher dimensions of energy healing and really benefiting from that from a lot of different ways. So Cyndi Dale is our featured presenter. She's an author, speaker, and intuitive energy healer. She's taught quite a number of programs for Shift and is really very well respected around the world and a lot of fun to be with. So Cyndi, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm thrilled to be here. And I am a really cool person because I live in Minnesota where it's always cold. So that fits.
Yeah, I guess you're so cool that you're cold.
That's right. All the way down to chill.
So we're really excited to do this, and we're going to dive in. I also want to let people know right up front that we are going to have a new program with Cyndi called Radical Energy Healing. It's actually a 2.0 version of a previous program, aligning with the divine pathway to access your soul's transformative power. And we'll share more about that towards the end of the hour. So, Cyndi, I know you've done a few of these, but it's still always useful to have a little bit of backstory about what propelled you on the path of becoming an energy healer. And then we'll dive into some of these really cool discoveries you've made.
I think I had to. I was compelled because the only way I could explain myself to myself was to learn all about energy. I was one of those odd, strange kids who could hear ghosts and see angels and colors around people. So when I entered therapy in my early 20s, I had a therapist say, you're not only all these things that gets insurance reimbursements, but you're psychic. And it was so fun to have somebody give me that feedback. And it became an excuse to travel around the world and learn from various intuitives, healers, and shamans, in places including Morocco and Venezuela and Japan and Peru. And so I've just had the most splendid journey, being able to interface with people, of course, in America and also around the world in order to develop, kind of the who am I, what am I here to do, and help other people do the same.
What a great intro, and normally we go a little bit deeper. So I'm wondering if any of those particular cultures you just named, you want to just kind of bring it alive for us, so we get a feeling for how you went and studied with someone.
My very favorite, I probably went to Peru out of Iquitos, once out of the Cusco, Machu Picchu area, but 10 times through Iquitos onto the Amazon and worked with 2 or 3 different shamans down there. Most of the time I spent with a shaman who was also an ayahuascaran. So he used the sacred medicine of that area and had us connect to, kind of what was alive in the land and had always been. And that really helped me turn on my abilities, my clairvoyant gifts, my clairaudient gifts, and work through, kind of that. It's almost like a tirade of deeper challenges that I had carried in, certainly from other lifetimes, but also this lifetime. In fact, one of the journeys that I made down there, the 4 times during the 2 weeks that I did the sacred medicine, I actually spent those alone at midnight in the jungle. I was quite nervous, but it was quite the experience also to conquer some of my fears, and find out what was deep inside of me. That's also within each of us. I mean, we've got, a history, I think, in every single culture of allowing and inviting up our sacred gifts, our ways of knowing, the intuitive faculties that we all have. And so it's really down along the Amazon that I think I really propelled into an acceptance of what was inside of myself, even though I was Norwegian, and Norwegians aren't known for being terribly creative or sometimes even interesting people. Even my history, my bloodline had that capacity for reading the soul and acting out, toward some state of enlightenment, which I think is a moving target for all of us.
Well, I love that you've explored some of these further out terrain, and you're also super grounded and very Minnesotan in other ways, which is really great for me as well, since I share that kind of exploratory spirit and the feet on the ground that come from Minnesota. So let's talk a little bit about what you've discovered. So today, I know you want to dive a little bit into the God spot, and it's something that you don't hear from a lot of other energy healers necessarily. So let's talk about that and why that's really has a central role in the system you've been developing.
Absolutely. So a few years ago, I began to perceive that the people who were really attuned in flow in their everyday lives, and or if they were interfacing with other people, came from their heart, but not just the physical heart and not just the heart chakra, Stephen. There really is sort of a special chamber deep within the heart chakra that seems to be separate from the chakra itself. And further exploration and research into some of the ancient Hindu scripture. That's one of the things I love to do is both science and cross-cultural research. Show that there's a pathway for what they call the bindu. It's a spot over the seventh chakra that seems to travel or traverse with the soul life to life. And at some point, it actually enters the body and resides within the center of the chest. And it's within there, that chamber, we can enter and connect with our own spirit, our own essence, greater spirit by whatever name. And I actually have perceived that there's like a cell, CELL, of the divine within here. So the importance of that is that everything we do through the God spot also enables physiological change. So physical change, not just psychological or a good feeling. So that's the basin that I've been really supporting students and clients and myself to operate from because we're body, mind, and soul. This is the place we get to be all those things.
Hmm. That's truly fascinating. I actually hadn't heard you say before it actually travels lifetime to lifetime and then kind of plops down into your heart. So it's almost like your incarnational codes, it sounds like.
It is, and I think they do hold that Bindu spot. And there's a couple other places too that hold these codes, sort of our quantum codes, our soul codes, the capabilities of who we are, which include divine connection. I mean, because if you think of it, most of the time when we think of being in the body, many people talk about, oh my gosh, I feel so lonely in here. I don't feel like I'm part of everything. I'm so separated. But that Bindu does travel and it holds the interconnectivity, and how wonderful when we can feel that within our system, our energetic system, but also our physical self as well.
Hmm. So we have this cell of the divine, a chamber. So how do you begin to like actually make contact with that?
Breathe into it. I mean, it's just like everything. Sometimes it takes a little work too. I always get this feeling when somebody asks me, how do I do that? It's sort of like opening a closet, and thinking, can I really get in there? Can I fit in there? And then once you start reading into it, perceiving it, visualizing, I often support people in maybe bringing down a little bit more of that Bindu light if they feel like it's still more outside of them rather than inside. Once they get in there, it's like the entire universe is inside. I actually believe it's made out of something that scientists are now calling absolute light, a real light that casts no darkness. So I like walking around inside of my God spot because I feel very present. I'm in the here and now, and I have an unlimited capability for pulling love from source for myself or other people. And
Hmm.
just like everybody, I get triggered, but when I get triggered, it's much easier to recenter, to take a few deep breaths, and to not act out all the programs I've been handed and or I developed on my way through life as well. So it's really a beautiful center point to live life from.
When you say walking around in the God spot, so you're sort of centering your awareness there. So you're kind of like always have a kind of an anchor or presence there and that kind of radiates out, or you're literally trying to like bring your whole awareness inside that, like all of you inside of that spot in your heart.
That's a great question. I hold my awareness in there, but I'm also knowingly extended beyond it. One analogy, and it's rather a silly one, but it kind of works, is like a kangaroo, a mama kangaroo has her little Joey inside.
I love that.
It's like you get to be the big kangaroo and you're the little Joey also.
Uh-huh. So it's both at the same time. That's kind of
Exactly.
cool. So I like what you're saying, that it's sort of like not only that it's an access point, you can kind of download other energies, you can access more love of the universe. So once you're in that spot, how do you then open to these kind of like wider frequencies and possibilities?
Well, there are different types of light available and sound as well within this place. So you're in that place of oneness. You're certainly aware of who you are. I use a technique always that I call spirit to spirit, where from this place, I come into the world or interact with somebody as the spirit or essence that I am. And I like to acknowledge other people's spirits, which is kind of like their higher selves, and turn a day, turn a moment, turn a session, turn an event over to the greater spirit. And then I also request that activated are what I like to call absolute scalar waves. Now, in healing these days, scalar waves are it. They're trendy. Everybody is talking about scalar waves as being universal phenomenon. These are electromagnetic kind of streams of energy or streams of light. They also make sound. There's several different types of scalar waves, actually. The body produces them, black holes make them. There's an electrical sort that Nikola Tesla was experimenting with. But what we're working with from this God spot in any way that we're employing for healing, for getting guidance, for manifesting, are scalar waves made out of absolute light. They're everywhere. You emanate them from in to out, from out to in. And that's the basic healing tool that I always use. It sort of makes it simple because these types of scalar waves, which are made out of, you could even say spiritual energy, like source energy, they're not going to damage anybody, anything. They only do what needs to be done. You can send prayer, you can send hope to somebody else. And when you use a technique like spirit to spirit, their own essential self is going to decide what of these healing energies to bring in and what to do with them. As a healer, I'd love to force healing onto everybody. Right? Few relatives, I'd like to say, let me pull out my wand and let's just like change that, kind of trait that I don't like about them. It doesn't work that way.
You're
Right.
hilarious.
You'll just get got and it'll bounce back and it'll get you when you do that. But these sorts of techniques and ideas and these streams of scalar waves, I sometimes call them grace or love empowered. Also, they're not going to do anything to somebody that's not for their best and essential self either.
Hmm. So it's a kind of a neutral uplift without trying to fix a particular thing.
Absolutely. No manipulation allowed.
No manipulation allowed. That's great. You had mentioned earlier that this God spot and then I guess the scalar waves as well allow you to actually change things on a physical level too. I think that's really interesting from the energy healing standpoint, because it sounds like that would allow you to do things that might be kind of ordinarily considered sort of miraculous in terms of physical healing.
They often can be. And here's always the nubbin when you're seeking healing or change for yourself or somebody else. You have to stay in a state of surrender because you don't really know what's going to happen or where. We can produce, we can see miracles. I love the definition of miracles that's given by C.S. Lewis. A miracle is the appearance of what's supposed to be here, which leaves room and margin for humanity, our flaws. Not everything's going to be all shined up and perfect. There was a very interesting healer, not very well known, Dr. James Newton. He was practicing, say, in the 1850s, medical doctor on a ship, broke out in typhoid. He was not the ship's doctor, so he couldn't treat people. Most of the people with typhoid died that went to the ship's doctor. All of the people who came to him, because his hands were bound, he couldn't use medical technology. He used basically, it was these absolute scalar waves. He basically prayed with them. He was a Christian. He believed that the deceased and the angels show up. All of his patients survived, and he went on to heal thousands of people around the world just with that sort of intentional direction of love. We're seeking to replicate that. We're seeking each of us that are healers or want to receive healing, I think, to produce that type of change that ultimately is, about grace or love that creates a difference.
Hmm. So circling back to what you said about that it's miracles is what wants to happen or it wants to be here. I forget the exact framing, but it's like, how do you know then if something that's a physical challenge you might have or is actually supposed to be here versus like supposed to be something that we are able to fix?
That's a great question. And sometimes we don't know. I mean, let's just be real. Sometimes we're not so sure. And so when I'm working with myself, a loved one, or somebody else, I hold the space for the physical to transform. And I also know that time and space is very odd. I mean, we think of it as linear. We actually have two neurological systems, and this is real science, okay? Our oldest neurology is called analog. And when we're in analog, as our ancestors developed healing protocols, were shamans, traditional Chinese medicine, all the old Ayurvedic, all the systems, religions, spiritualities really come out of analog, where you're open to guidance. There's a oneness. You're part of nature. Spirit is part of nature. You can get a dream. It'll tell you what's going to happen. You follow it. We've since added on something called digital neurology. We know what that is. That's like be on time, stay on time, division of labor. But our old neurology, that the types of teachings I think most of us are offering through Shift, and I certainly am with these ideas, is to open up analog, where it's not so much that you're setting a goal, you're opening for a dream. You're giving space for your inner self, your spirit, your soul to dream a different reality for you. And so now I'm going to give you a short answer after I just gave you a long one. You'll feel if it's going to shift. I think most people know. They go, this is going to change. I don't know how long, or it does change overnight. So I think once we allow ourselves to be in that sense of interconnectivity, we can sense what's going to shift and we can promote it with behavior that supports health or change too.
Hmm, that's great. I wonder if you can explain a little bit more about how, if you're shifting the energy behind something, that actually impacts a potential downstream disease or challenge as well.
Well, 99.999% of all reality is subtle. It's psychic. Now they call it subtle. When I started the training, we called it psychic. And now we've upgraded it. So it sounds just, kind of a little bit more scientific. But that subtle energy is the lattice work that physical reality is based on. Einstein talked about how everything is made of energy, which I define as information that moves or vibrates, and that we're nothing more, nothing's anything more than emanating and interacting fields of light and sound and consciousness. So when we learn more about subtle energy, the systems of subtle energy, I like to sometimes talk about the pathways of subtle energy, these layerings of reality that we coexist on, we can better define what's stuck in the subtle energetic, if it's our energy or somebody else's. Is it inherited or something we sort of unconsciously came up with? And really, sometimes the slightest shift can change enormous amounts of physical reality. Physical reality is the very, 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 very tip of the iceberg. So, the more any of us venture into these realms of subtle energy, which our ancestors lived from, they lived from that. The more we're able to recreate, to more formally usher in different events, different ways of perceiving, and create differences in our physical reality. I worked with a woman years and years ago. She had 120 pounds to lose. So we still have to be physical. She came to me, she said, I don't like exercise and I don't like dieting. I'm like, well, nobody really likes dieting. And I said, but you may have to do it to lose your weight. And she goes, well, I just want you to do some hocus pocus and help me lose the weight. I'm like, I'm not sure how this is going to work. We went through the protocols and she did lose 60 pounds in 2 months because she got so sick. She was detoxing, never in a dangerous way, that she lost 60 pounds. She came back and she said, that was miserable, but I loved that. Can you just do that again? And I said, you probably have to exercise and figure out an eating program for yourself. So you never really know when you shift subtle energy. People don't, it's medicine. Subtle energy is medicine. What are the blocks? When I was working with this particular woman, really the inner work we did was childhood, resistance to her own emotions, resistance to facing her marriage and what was happening there. So often we're led to go deep inside in order to shift what's been holding us or what we've been holding, and then physical reality changes. I had one woman grew 2 inches. Her spine lengthened 2 inches after a healing within a week. Within a week, 2 inches. I had another woman I was working with in Canada. She had been born with a compressed sternum, like there was a dent in her sternum. She came back the next day. We applied these absolute scalar waves, the protocol. She came back the next day, completely flat sternum, completely flat. It had hurt a little bit, the opening of it, but she was so thrilled. She was like, this is amazing. If this can happen, think of what else I can do for myself or other people.
Wow, those are amazing examples. And
I know.
maybe you can take us through, like, just not the specifics with a particular person, but like what are the steps that you tend to build on in order to get to a protocol that leads to a result like that?
So if I'm going to work on somebody or somebody's going to open for themselves or work on somebody else, all right, just in general, the protocol I always use is start with the God spot. Go in your God spot, be in your God spot, explore it, come from that place. Whether I'm seeking to help myself or somebody else, it's going to magnify what's possible, hopefully turn it into probable and maybe even what's destined. And so if I'm working with somebody from there, I affirm that I'm going to come from my spirit. That immediately puts sort of a beautiful boundary between me and the other person. I count, they count, I'm going to remain within my essence, my loving self. And then I secondarily affirm them and their guides, my guides, their guides. And then I turn the whole process over to greater spirit or source by whatever name. And then I ask for the activation of the absolute scalar waves. If I'm working on somebody, I'm asking for those to come to the person. And they open from inside to out, they go from outside to in, and there might be some talking. I may open up my intuition if I'm working on somebody to share what I'm perceiving, kind of maybe what they need to focus on, where they might be stuck. And so there's typically an interaction, but it's really these energetics that are making the difference, not so much getting the words perfect, but getting the process opened up for them. And of course, there's many different other ways to work. In the program that we have coming up, I'm going to be helping people to go expressly on what I like to call the divine pathway. It's a layer of reality that coaxes the most miracles. All right. And so I love working that level with various high level beings and angels and, kind of different ways to open, kind of did a certain type of Kundalini and what I call a miracle body. But I always use that same protocol, no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah, really, it's great to have such a clear protocol to follow. So I know you wanted to lead us in an experiential that would really sort of ground some of the what you've been teaching in our own lives. So you want to do that now?
I certainly do. So we'll use the protocol that I just explained, and I'm going to help everybody open up to a particular level of reality called divinity, your own divinity, in which you get to be fully human and especially divine at the same time. I'm going to also introduce everybody to a miracle body. So just prepare. There's a very specific energetic along this level of reality that's going to help you perceive what's wrong and open to what could be happening for you in a better way. So without further ado, let me guide everybody through this process. I'll explain as I go. I'll also share with you where the three different images are that you can peek open your eyes and get a sense of what we're talking about. And then just take a couple deep breaths, breathe deeply, be in the flow of self and of your breath. Trust that your body knows already all the mechanics of breathing. And so every time you inhale, you can give permission to bring in some of those scalar waves, some of those streams of grace that we've been talking about. And note too that every time you exhale, you're giving permission for your breath to release the energy you're complete with, you're finished with, ideas and perceptions that have been harmful and or certainly not helpful. And then in and through your breath, allow yourself to rest in the very middle of your heart chakra, the center of your chest. Now, in here, you may feel a sense of spaciousness. You may ask your guides to help you wiggle in here if this is new to you. And know too that those same absolute scalar waves, streams of love that Stephen and I were speaking about, are going to bring even more light, even more grace, even more of your own song into this inner chamber or your God spot. And so absolute scalar waves come from afar, come from the heavens, over your seventh chakra and through a very special energy body you could call the Bindu, sort of a home of the divine and your divinity, through that Bindu to bring it from different lives, from in between lives into the very center of that divine chamber, the God spot in the very middle of your chest. And now it's like you open to the light and the song of your spirit, of the greater spirit. And note also that within here, what has been brought in or further stimulated is a unique cell of God's, of the universe, like a snowflake just for you, that will invite change at every level as you work through this God spot with an open heart and with love. You're going to affirm that you'll go through this process, this meditation, as your own divine spirit, your own higher self, your own spark or essence, that you're only going to interconnect with the spirits of others, those who hold well being for you and love for you, and seek to empower your greatness. And that you can turn this entire process over to whatever it is you call source, God, Allah, Gaia, greater spirit, presence, or oneness. Let's acknowledge that through this process, you've already been summoning absolute scalar waves, whichever others need to emanate from inside you to out or outside you to in, that is occurring. And one of the very beautiful activities being performed for you right now through those streams of grace or love is the activation of what's called radiant Kundalini. Radiant Kundalini. And there's actually an image of this that you can pop your eyes open and look at before you go back into the depths of your God spot. Radiant Kundalini is a very unique type of Kundalini. It's not the red that powers your electrical system or any other type. It's your own spirit light that opens from inside of your God spot and moves out. I want you to feel that free flow of spirit light unique to you. It is actually interconnecting you to a layer of reality called the divine pathway, which is everywhere all at once. It's one of 4 pathways that we're always on that enables quick, miraculous change, guidance, manifesting, that enables you to live imperfectly perfect and perfectly imperfect. And with this expression of the radiant Kundalini, you're going to find yourself moving, your consciousness moving just in front of you, maybe 6 inches to a foot in front of your God spot. I'm going to encourage your spirit to turn on your intuitive faculties, your sense of feeling, knowing, receiving, perceiving, hearing, as unveiled for you is your miracle body, a miracle body, an actual energetic body that looks like a lens. You can see the image of it that will enable the appearance of what is supposed to be here. You may sense this body, perhaps you perceive it or see it. I'm encouraging you to kind of travel into the middle of it just for a moment. There's an image that helps to portray what occurs in the very center of this lens. It's like a lens, a concave convex lens. Here in the middle are every dimension and every layer of reality. And I want you to just bask in that explosion of time and space and all the possibilities for enabling destiny. And then breathe your way back to this side of the miracle body and focus on an issue, a challenge, a need, a desire, a problem, a request. And with and through your intuitive faculties, your guides assisting you, look at the inside of the lens to perceive the core causal reason for this challenge or for the failure of what you desire to manifest. And I just want you to experience the reflections from the inside of this miracle body, the love with which the answer is being given to you. No judgment, no ego. Perhaps you recall a scene or perceive it or get an echo of something somebody once said to you, or be shown almost like a slideshow of what occurred to create your need to ask about this focus. Maybe feelings come up, awarenesses. You can also ask what percentage of this challenge is due to your own issues or perceptions versus others' energies. Invite your guidance to give you even more imaging, knowing, education, and insight about the root, even the subtle energetic anchors beneath this issue. And then there's only one final request you need to make. Even as you return from this diagnostic or assessment back into your God spot to be fully residing there. Absolute scalar waves, all those that are needed for the healing, for the transmutation, for the transformation, for continued guidance or manifestation, emanate from the heavens through the outer rim, the outer lens of the miracle body into you. So it's the outside of the lens that opens to the solutions, to the antidotes that can come from anywhere. They're just simply carried in and made real and concrete with the absolute scalar waves. There might be a delivery from nature, an ancestor, your own spirit, higher spirit, angels. You're on the divine pathway because of that radiant Kundalini. So, whatever it is that's shared with you, that transmutes and or helps you release from yourself is perfectly perfect for you. The you that even now you get to experience as the divinity of yourself and within you. Just breathe again. You're in your God spot. Now you can really enjoy it. Delivered to you has been all the grace that will be followed with any other intuitive messaging, guidance, or greetings from the world that are needed to continue this shifting simply, safely, and gently. As you breathe in and through your God spot, you can decide if you want to continue to interact with the world as the spirit you are from this beautiful God spot, which will ever increase in power and strength, connecting only to the spirits of the living, the known and the unknown, and surrender to source for a continued delivery through your miracle body. Breathe, be, and open your eyes when you're ready.
Well, thank you, Cyndi. What a beautiful guided process there, and so many dimensions to it.
It's very simple. People can use this miracle body. Let's say you just need a solution or a bit of guidance, or you want to know what's really happening. Do a protocol like this. It gets quicker and quicker. And then go look into the mirror. That mirror side near you of the miracle body, get some insight, ask for healing. It's a very swift way to make a change.
Hmm. Beautiful. You used a few terms in there that I'd want to get a little bit more information about. That so the radiant Kundalini seems to be very central, and maybe you can share about the radiant Kundalini and traditional understanding of Kundalini and what differentiates working on this divine pathway.
Well, the most well known form of Kundalini, it's sometimes called the red Kundalini, the Shakti, the divine feminine, the serpent Kundalini. It is a very real energy. It is meant to rise actually up from underneath the ground. You have a chakra underneath the feet, and bring into you the different kind of subtle elements that are needed to go through the first chakra and your nervous system. It's an electrical energy, it's very biochemical, and it wakes people up. And it can be harsh. It can be very challenging. Some people have gone through a Kundalini experience like that, and it can tend to sometimes get stuck. Certainly, it stirs our issue. It's a formidable energy, and it is one, however, of three different kinds of Kundalini. The Hindus talk about how once that electrical energy arises, then there's a falling of a different type of energy. I call it golden Kundalini, talked about in the literature in many different cultures, that encourages the development of substances in the body and perceptions that bring us to a higher place and help us heal. The radiant Kundalini is a third type, and there's some really ancient scripture that some of them have not even been translated yet that talk about in Hinduism, three different types of Kundalini, and how they really emanate from a source in the heart. I call it radiant Kundalini. It emanates from the center of every chakra. It's easiest to open through the God spot or the center of your heart chakra. And it's really just pure spirit light. It's the safest of all three. You can exclusively open the radiant Kundalini. And over time, it will assure that these other two types of Kundalini either present themselves or complete their pathways. But there's never anything but pure spirit outcome when you're working with the radiant Kundalini. So it's really interesting to do some deeper research into some of the literature on Kundalini and find out that there's different forms and different types. And it's the radiant that allows us to access our divinity and our peacefulness and bring about very, very safe results in any of the Kundalinis.
Hmm. Really fascinating. I mean, just you're a wealth of information in all these areas. So I want to learn a little bit more about the divine pathway. And so you've referenced that as like on this divine pathway. I know that's the foundation of your upcoming program. So share a little bit more about the different layers of reality you perceive and what the divine pathway in particular is particularly good at.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you a little backstory. My first book came out really a long time ago, I don't know, 30 years or something. And I was asked to write a second book as a sequel. So I wrote almost the whole book. I went to bed. Jesus showed up and said, "You got to toss that book because that's not what you're supposed to write." I'm like, What?" And he said, "There's four layers to reality. I'm going to show them to you. If you could explain these to other people, there's so much more effectiveness and efficacy with having people understand there's four basic bodies that they are and four layers to the universe." And so those are the four pathways. And I wrote that book. We have one layer that's very foundational called elemental. There's another layer called the power that's all about working with big forces. There's a layer called imaginal that's very shamanic. And the divine pathway is you can use them in any order. You don't have to know about the others. The divine pathway is where the most miracles occur. It's where there's spiritual laws operating. For instance, one of them is there's never any shame, there's never any blame. If you have a problem, it's because you're seeking to meet a need in a certain way that may not be the healthiest. So if you meet the need a different way, a miracle can occur. And the radiant Kundalini is sort of our foundational connection or tractor beam to be able to operate on the divine pathway, which is what we're going to be doing in my upcoming course is exclusively operating on that divine pathway. You're still going to be able to function. You can still make your dinner. You're still going to be a normal person. It just kind of gives you that boost into, you could even call the angelic sphere, to receive only loving and helpful assistance for yourself and for others.
Very cool. Well, Cyndi, there's just so much we can learn from you. And I want to give people an opportunity to learn more about how they can dive in with you and really learn what you've distilled from all these energy healing traditions and how to apply it in their lives. So we're super excited that you're doing a 2.0 version of one of your really popular programs at Shift. It's called Radical Energy Healing, aligning with the divine pathway to access your soul's transformative power. You can find it at the URL radicalenergyhealing.com, radicalenergyhealing.com. It's a 7-week program and is really going to lay fundamental building blocks for you to apply these energy healing principles and practices in your life, particularly working with the divine pathway. So, Cyndi, I'd love for you to share in your own words about this program and what makes it unique, and then I'll read out the module titles. You give us a preview of what's coming.
Beautiful. I think very few people really know that they coexist on the divine pathway. So much of the time we're seeking to achieve our divinity or remember our divinity. You're already on the divine. You're already here. You don't have to do anything perfectly. Just open and everything else, will occur. So we're really going to be looking at changing, whatever needs to be changed all the way from the physiological and neurological levels up to our perceptions, to activating even more of our intuitive faculties. I think it's really about joy. It's about, how can you be happy in your life And when we're happiest with who we are, that transmits to other people and we can really enable a better world too.
Beautiful. So, module one is called Attune to the Divine Pathway through your God spot. Meet angelic beings and experience radiant Kundalini for growth, healing, and happiness.
So we're going to repeat some of this protocol. We're also going to go through a list of the different types of angelic beings that are marvelous to work with. They can help you with everything from judgment to challenging programming. There's even a set of angelic beings that are called celestial housekeepers. They haven't taken up in my house yet, but I'm waiting for them to do that. So you're going to learn about the different types of angelic beings you can connect with and go ahead and connect with them. Get them to work for you and with you.
So cool. Module two, activate your miracle body to perform precision readings for magical healing, manifesting, and magnetizing on all levels.
So we're going to do even more with the miracle body than what we did in the exercise today. You can use that miracle body to spot on check. What do I need to do? What's happening? What's impacting me that's negative? What do I need to open to? Gain guidance, bring in what you need, do healing for self and others. It's a really universal tool. It's kind of like a microscope for the angels. And why not use it for yourself?
Module three, become your guru self through hyper gamma, lambda, and epsilon consciousnesses to cultivate love and clear your long-standing deepest issues.
So, this is one of my favorite of the modules. We have access to brain waves slash brain states that enable us to really be the adept that we know that we are. And so, we're stretching all the way beyond hypergamma, really, really fast kind of a brainwave into an even faster one that automatically, once we hold it, which we'll learn how to do in a grounded, real, not spacey kind of way, immediately starts altering our deep trauma programs. And it works in the body. It's not just about thinking yourself into wellness, it's about experiencing the wellness, even when you don't know how to define why you feel traumatized or why you're triggered or why you have an autoimmune dysfunction or whatever it is that's occurring for you.
Module four, create multi-organ system healing by using divine pathway protocols for neurological healing.
So, this is the class we're going to talk a little bit more about the different types of Kundalini. And we're going to work with some of the Hindu concepts of the spine, which talk about there's three layers to the spine, which is called the Shushumna. And there's actually a center in the spine that is the home of your neurology, that's the home of what the Hindus call the Khanda or all of your neurology. So, if you use these techniques, these processes, through the spine slash through that bed of the first chakra, you can perceive all types of very true organic multi organ changes. That's our goal for that particular module.
Module five, cultivate radiant mind, body, spirit health as you activate the higher aptitudes of normally harmful microbes using divine pathway perceptions.
So I love working with microbes. Most people don't like microbes, but each microbial family actually, if they have consciousness, and you were to talk to a different family, virus versus bacteria versus mold, et cetera, they would tell you that they believe they have a specific job. And on the divine pathway, we can interact intuitively and energetically with different microbes that are harming us to get them to work with or for us, or just to step out of the body altogether. So it's a very, it's like let's engineer the microbes that they're beneficial instead of harmful.
Module six, trip the light fantastic through the major 10 dimensions to eliminate blocks and access healing, manifesting energies.
So working the dimensions is an absolutely exciting way to perform healing for yourself or for others. For instance, your first dimension is where building blocks exist. It's really flat. It's just like a spot. But that's the place you want to work if you want to get out of you a building block that's creating negativity and put in a building block that can change the entirety of a specific issue or challenge. And every single dimension presents a different opportunity for healing, whether it's to bring the future into now, get a perspective of what's happening, plant a new reality within the day to day. It's a really cool tripping the light fantastic to make it work for you.
And finally, module 7, activate your koshas or sacred sheaths for divine intuition.
So almost every culture has the idea that we're sort of wrapped in different lenses and different sheaths in different ways of learning or knowing. And these are kind of soul sheaths that we're going to be opening, relating to, and inviting to condense so that we can really access our intuition in a really beautiful, divine kind of way.
Beautiful. It's an amazing program. It's just eye-opening and heart-opening and really just such an incredible adventure in consciousness as well. So again, it's all laid out in detail at radicalenergyhealing.com. So I'll share a little bit more about it. So you get not only these live sessions with Cyndi, which is going to include time to ask your questions live. You also get recordings for every session, both video and audio. You'll get word for word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight, weekly exercises and practices for inquiry and action learning. There's a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience, as well as breakout sessions that allow you to connect with other community members. And on the page, you'll see there's a number of extra bonuses that really enhance your journey. There's a compilation of 13 video teachings from Cyndi, super robust, healing food and substance issues via subtle energetics. You want to share a little bit about that bonus?
Yeah, absolutely. Most food issues in most of us are based in the subtle energetics. Most of us, unfortunately, have them, even if it's just the desire for chocolate that seizes and controls us. And typically, if you have any type of food craving, food issues, substance, kind of issue going on, what's really happening is a deep seated trauma that's on the subtle plane that can be addressed. So I talk about these different types of issues, food allergies, sensitivities, autoimmune dysfunctions, and help you get to what's underneath them so you can really have some freedom with your body. And with eating, is one of the best things about being alive is enjoying our food.
That's a great extra bonus. And there's more. There's a whole video teaching from Cyndi on the 3 universal lights and the structure of a chakra. I'm sure that's fascinating. There's an activations. These are 70 plus short processes for quick shifts. These are audio and video teachings from Cyndi. And I know these are not available anywhere else on your site. Cyndi, you want to share a little bit about those?
Yeah, they're not. They took me like 3 days to record. So you're getting kind of a condensed version of 70 different quick audio or audiovisual activations for everyday life. So there's a unit about how to access your intuition, how to make decisions, how to help your body. And these are only 1 or 2 minutes tops. So when you have a need, play and activation. It's going to open you up in that area of life interest. I've had people tell me they use them in the elevator on their way to a meeting, or on their way to a doctor appointment when they're nervous. So they pretty much cover anything that you could be facing in life and will help you with life. They're sort of like a quick shot of help.
That's a great extra bonus. And another one that's on the page is color for transforming your mood. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so color is one of the 2 main ways that we can perform healing because we're made out of light or color and we're made out of sound. So different colors have different impacts. So this will walk you through what the different colors mean, help you apply them to yourself. Like orange, for instance, is the cheeriest color. Most people don't know that. Blue will calm you. So it helps you access color internally and even perhaps know what to wear if you're facing a certain type of dilemma or opportunity, so you can use color in a substantive way in your life.
Well, what a cool roster of bonuses. And there's one special bonus, which is actually a full package of bonuses that's available when you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. We like to do this to create a little extra incentive for you to tune in now while you have the most information and connection with what Cyndi's sharing versus going on and getting distracted by the rest of your life. And so if you sign up right away by midnight, you're going to get the full package of recordings and transcripts from our Energy Medicine Summit, which is really one of the preeminent places for teachers of a wide variety of lineages. So you get that whole package of recordings and transcripts when you sign up by midnight tonight. So again, you can see all the detail on these various bonuses, plus more on the modules. And I also want to draw attention to the testimonials, which are really a great way to gain insight into the impact that this kind of work can have in somebody's life. And people just rave about Cyndi. It's like it's so healing, so full of insights and tools for me to use, collective energy, powerful and uplifting, great experience, clarity and peace about my unique gifts. There's so many people who have really been benefited from Cyndi's teachings and as you heard earlier, really gain miraculous kinds of healings in their own lives as well. So you're in great hands, and it's also going to be a fun adventure since Cyndi also makes teaching and learning a lot of fun, and you are going to receive some powerful tools for radical energy healing. So again, all the details are radicalenergyhealing.com, and the title of the course is Radical Energy Healing, Aligning with the Divine Pathway to Access Your Soul's Transformative Power. So Cyndi, we still have a few minutes left. Anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering diving into radical energy healing with you?
I would love to interface with each and every one of you. This is really one of my favorite ways of working is through the divine pathway because it's easy, it's graceful. There's no right, there's no wrong. If you feel like, oh my gosh, could I screw up? You can't screw up. You got beings helping you. You've got fellow companions in this community who are assisting you. So you're really just engaging with the light and the song, who you really are. So I'd love to have each of you enjoy this process.
Well, really, it's so exciting and so such a blessing to have this access to this work and really to distill what you've learned from all your travels around the world, all your inner exploration, the thousands of clients you've worked with. What a blessing to be able to receive that in this new program and also today. So thank you, Cyndi, for being such a bright light and such a healing force on this planet. And we definitely need it. So thank you for helping put us on the pathway to really expressing more of the divinity that we are.
Thank you, Stephen.
So thank you, Cyndi. And thank you all. And again, if you would like to go further into radical energy healing, you can do so at radicalenergyhealing.com, and you'll get that special full energy medicine summit set of recordings and bonuses when you sign up by midnight tonight. Thank you so much.